Have you ever just stopped and wondered why learning a new language as an adult feels so much harder than it seemed to be for us as kids? Well, you're not alone. Today, we're going to cut through all that confusion. We're laying out a clear, science-backed roadmap to master a new language, one that's built specifically for the way your adult brain works. Okay, let's get into it. So here's the game plan. First, we'll tackle the adult learning paradox. Then, we'll talk about building an absolutely unbreakable habit, because that's the real key. From there, we'll load you up with a scientific toolkit of learning hacks. And finally, we'll bring it all home with a 4-pillar master plan. All right, let's just dive right into the deep end here. That feeling you get, that frustration, that sense that you're just constantly fighting an uphill battle trying to learn a new language. Yeah, it's not just in your head. It's real. And there's a fascinating scientific reason for it. I mean, this is the classic question, isn't it? We all look at little kids, and we're just amazed at how they seem to soak up a language like a sponge. But what's actually going on in their brains? And more importantly, how is it different from what's happening in ours? Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, because this totally reframes the problem. See, kids have what's called high brain plasticity. They use implicit learning. They're just absorbing patterns from being around the language constantly. But as adults, we have a different kind of superpower, our analytical skills. We use explicit knowledge. We learn the rules. And because of that, we can actually make much faster progress right at the beginning. So the big takeaway here is that your adult brain isn't a weakness, not at all. It's just a different kind of asset. So knowing how our brain works is step one. But the next, and maybe even more important step, is building a system that makes that brain work for us. And listen, this isn't about some magic trick. It's about building a habit that you just can't break. You know the feeling, right? That initial burst of excitement. That new year, new me energy where you're gonna finally learn Japanese. We've all been there. But here's the thing. Relying on that feeling is a trap. Motivation, it's just a spark. It's awesome for getting you started, but trust me, it will fade. And this is the heart of it. This is the secret sauce. Discipline is what takes over when that motivation spark fizzles out. It's the engine that keeps you going day in and day out, powering you through the tough spots and the plateaus. Real, lasting success is built on that consistent effort, not on a feeling that comes and goes. And if you need proof, just look at this. The data is so clear. Trying to cram every now and then, that leads to a pretty dismal 22% information retention rate. But consistent guided practice, whoa, that sends your attention skyrocketing to 85%. I mean, that is a staggering difference, and it just proves that how you learn is every bit as important as what you learn. All right, so now we've got the right mindset. We know discipline is king. Now let's fill up our toolbox with some really powerful, science-backed learning techniques you can literally start using today. These right here are the 4 heavy hitters. We're talking about spaced repetition systems, comprehensible input, active recall, and the super important duo of immersion and output. Let's break down what each of these actually means. First up, spaced repetition, or SRS. You know how our brains are literally designed to forget things we don't use? Well, SRS is like a cheat code for that process. It's a system that's smart enough to show you a piece of information right before you're about to forget it. And over time, the review gaps get longer and longer, basically cementing that knowledge into your long-term memory. It's systematic, it's efficient, and it's perfect for the adult brain. And the results? They're kind of mind-blowing. Studies show that using an SRS can give you up to 340% faster access to new vocabulary. It's not just memorizing, it's literally rewiring your brain to be faster. Next in the toolkit is something called comprehensible input. Now, this is all about finding your learning sweet spot. You want to expose yourself to language that you can mostly understand, but that has a few new things sprinkled in. This allows you to start picking up patterns and grammar naturally, in context, kind of like how a kid does, but without all the boring drills. Third up is active recall. Look, just rereading your notes over and over, it's one of the least effective ways to learn anything. Active recall is the exact opposite. It's forcing your brain to pull the information out of your memory, like with flashcards. That active retrieving builds much stronger connections. And this leads us perfectly to our 4th tool, immersion and output. This is about surrounding yourself with the language and, this is crucial, actually using it. You gotta speak, you gotta write, you gotta make mistakes. That's the output that turns head knowledge into a real skill.
Okay, we've got the mindset, we've got the tools, so how do we put all these pieces together into a system that actually works? Well, that is where the four-pillar master plan comes in.
This is it, the whole structure. It's a logical progression. You start with topic introduction. That's where you get that comprehensible input we talked about. Then you move to collaborative practice, where you get some guidance. After that comes the most important part, independent production. This is your output phase, where you're using the language on your own. And finally, you lock it all in with reflective consolidation, which is a powerful form of active recall.
So I really want to focus on this third pillar for a second, independent production. This is where the magic happens. It's where you put our toolkit into action. It's that moment you stop just knowing something and you start actually doing it. It's where you take what you've learned and use it by yourself. But how do you make sure that practice is actually effective?
You do it with SMART goals. This framework is a game changer. It turns a vague idea like, I want to get better at French, into a concrete action plan. So instead, you say, I will learn and use 10 new food verbs in a 5-minute conversation by Friday. See, it's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. This is how you make real, trackable progress. And that brings us right to our final pillar, reflective consolidation. It really boils down to taking a quiet moment after your practice to ask yourself this one simple but incredibly powerful question. This is like active recall for your own learning process. It helps you solidify what worked, what didn't, and what you need to focus on next. So let's wrap this all up. What's the bottom line? Number 1, your adult brain, with its analytical skills, is a huge asset. Number 2, discipline beats motivation every single time. Build the engine, don't just rely on the spark. 3, use the scientific toolkit, spaced repetition, active recall, to work smarter, not harder. And finally, put it all together with the structured 4-pillar plan. That is your path to mastery. The science is clear. The plan is laid out right in front of you and the tools are in your hands. So the only question left is, with this new framework, what's the first thing you're going to master?